Hello and welcome to the Jersey Nerds podcast. We got a full crew here today and a good amount of stuff to talk about. I'm going to talk about some new developments with Jersey Nerds media and related things. We'll get into that a little bit. We got a discussion surrounding the newly unveiled NWHL team, the Toronto Six. We've got a logo, we've got colors, discuss the colors a little, but we'll be going into the logo, some debate around the logo as well. Then we'll be continuing our NHL Team Rundowns, going through the Anaheim Mighty Ducks of Anaheim Ducks today, the Florida Panthers, and the Dallas Stars, all teams that started playing in 1993. Like I said, we got a full house on this cast today, joined today by Hunter. What's up, Hunter?
Just hanging out with you guys. How about you?
Apparently I'm doing the same.
Nice.
We got Justin here today.
Howdy, back for a second week in a row.
Happy to have you here. Steve has joined the podcast today.
Howdy, folks.
Good to have Steve. And, of course, we have Bpoe. What's up, Bpoe?
Just recording a podcast, Chris. How about you?
Doing the same. Anywho, let's get into it a little bit. Just very recently, from the recording of this podcast, Jersey Nerds have unveiled quite a few new things. A new logo, a new brand, a new website. Lots of fun developments coming along with this new iteration of the podcast. And so let's speak to that a little bit.
I guess that's my cue.
It can be.
Well, guys, we just want to talk about, we had talked over the past few months here, because while personally it wasn't too bad of a branding that we had for Jersey Nerds podcasts, coming up with all the decisions to expand into things like bring back concepts and eventually we're working our way into video. I think we definitely needed to do something that was really great. And I got to say, the idea, I believe it was Justin who came up with the glasses idea for the interlocking JN. So just worked from there. But I'll say this. Who would say, out of all the colors that we chose, what was your favorite?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we've got a different color representing each kind of category, each facet of the whole new Jersey Nerds media brand, news, concepts, podcast, etc.
Yes, we have red for concepts, blue is to represent mainly Jersey Nerds media. We call that blog blue. The red is an orangish red known as Hazlitt red, kind of a throwback to our days at HJC. Purple for the podcast there. Green for our musings and stories. We're going traditional black and white for news. And the video portion, which we're going to be opening up soon, will be yellow.
Yeah, I think looking at the blog and seeing the, yellow, green, white, black together definitely gives North Stars vibes, which is a lot of fun. I think green is the last one we threw in there. I know we were playing around with teal for a while, but I really like the green we came up with. Maybe that's just me being biased because that's, going to be my color for the most of it. But I guess I'm glad it's something that I do enjoy as well.
Yeah, and for now, you can go to jerseynerds.wordpress.com for all that info and stuff. Shout out to Bpoe for doing a lot of the branding work and the website work as well.
Yes, thank you, Bpoe.
You couldn't see me, but I just bowed.
A verbal bow as well.
Well, we should also state that we can't see each other right now.
This is true.
This is just audio recording.
Just like you, the listener, cannot see us.
You have no idea what's going on.
Unless you subscribe to the Jersey Nerds podcast video feed for $4.19.99.
All it is Justin sitting pantless eating chips.
That's me. It's your boy.
That's an extra $6 a month on the Patreon to see that.
That's a good deal. I mean, I pay at least twice that, so...
You pay twice that to see yourself sitting
Mirrors are
pantsless?
expensive, man.
Yeah.
I will say, guys,
right.
we just rebranded, but I think I have another good idea based on what Chris said in the intro. I think we should change our name to Jersey Nerds Media and Related Things.
And
The
related.
Jersey Nerds Media of Anaheim Ducks of Anaheim, Jersey Nerds Media.
Do you know how long it took us to settle on that?
Of Los Angeles.
Oh, well, of course.
Okay, you've brought it too far now.
The mighty Jersey Nerds of Anaheim of Los Angeles.
Can we talk about an excellent Rams concept I saw the other day?
Oh yeah. Who did that? I think that was like Chris Ramirez or somebody.
Ram Cruceros or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
You guys aren't even ready for what's coming next on that.
Uh-oh.
But that's not why we're here today. We are here today. We discussed the rebrand a little bit. Hope everybody likes it and is able to keep up on all the Jersey Nerds related happenings through that site. I think that's a long enough intro. I think it's time to get into the NWHL. We have the Toronto Six as the name of the team, recently unveiled. I think last podcast we kind of speculated, what could the name be? What could the colors be like? And so we have a name, we've got confirmed colors, and we've got a logo. So the Toronto Six, the colors being used in the logo, we got a nice, pretty standard red. We have a Vegas-y gold along with black and some white accents. The logo here, gosh, if somebody else want to describe this logo, it's basically an italicized T but mixed with a 6, and it's got a gold maple leaf in the middle of the 6. I think does a pretty good job explaining what that looks like. So what are our initial thoughts on this logo and this team name?
I mean, I have never been a fan of number-based team names. I know, going to Purdue, Indy 11 is something you heard all the time with the soccer team in Indianapolis, and it's just odd. I think it pretends to be old school without actually being old school, but it's, I don't think it's anything locally that people can usually get attached to. Toronto is nice because, it's become known as the Six, due to the 416 area code. Which I initially saw this on Twitter and didn't have an explanation for it, and I got really confused because I thought 416 was the area code. I have a lot of family in Toronto, my brother lives in Toronto, so I know Toronto fairly well. And then I was trying to figure out why the logo was a 765, and then I had to actually read about it until I figured out that it's a T and a 6. But I think just the name is something that doesn't really get me going or get me excited or anything like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin, why was 6 afraid of 7?
Because 765.
Yes, there you go.
329.
Classic.
Way to go, Justin. Way to go.
He got it. Justin got it.
I'm a college graduate. I know what I'm doing.
Be on the lookout for the unveiling of the new Jersey Nerds comedy brand.
Oh, yes. What color are we using for that?
Stand-up Netflix specials.
It'll be a white logo on a white background.
Oh, yes.
Very classic look.
The Harold Ballard treatment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean overall, I'm kind of in the corner with Justin here too. I'm not a fan of this branding at all. The logo looks like one that's already been used before with that NHL 75 logo.
Well,
they tried to sell people on all the subtle meaning behind the logo, 6 players on the ice, 6 team in the league. Apparently there's a hockey stick somewhere in that maple leaf. But every time I look at it, all I'm seeing is this NHL 75 logo and
the Sounders colors.
And yeah, exactly. They tried to do something original, but then they ended up ripping colors off of, well, I wouldn't even say the Sens, but they're basically just a rip off of the Raptors now because they're using the same color scheme. So I don't know. Overall, I'm not a fan at all.
I'll probably be the unpopular opinion on this. I get where they were going. So I guess they didn't want to copy the NHL team like the Toronto Furies did, essentially. And I can understand that they want to have their own identity, but it just feels like that. Oh, we're not going to copy off of them, but we're going to copy off of another local Toronto team that just happened to win the championship. last season. And I get where they're going with that. I mean, the Toronto Raptors had a pretty solid rebrand and everything, but it just feels like that they were trying to take the popularity and ride that with this overall branding. And I'm not defeating them. It's just that everything feels like that they were trying to identify themselves with the Raptors and trying to push everything away instead of establishing their own brand.
I
Yeah,
gotta say, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
no, you're good.
Okay, well, I gotta say, I do agree with a lot of the points that were brought up, but I don't hate this brand as much as everybody else seems to, because, I mean, it's not the greatest for sure, but I do like the direction they were going in. I think a league like this is a good league that a name like this could work, where it's a little bit more unique. It's not traditional, even though it does kind of, like Justin said, sound very traditional in some ways. And in a way, I see kind of why they're trying to be a little bit more trendy with things to try to, captivate a little bit more of the younger audience that might be interested in this kind of thing, since they're a smaller league that's trying to make a bigger name for themselves. Of course, the logo, I don't think you can deny the similarities to that 75 logo, but I think they were kind of going in the right direction, because I'm not sure what else you can do for a team called the Six. I think this logo might make a better shoulder patch, and I was even thinking a script logo might not be the worst thing for like the front of their jerseys. I think that might work decently well. I don't know if they have something like that up their sleeve or not, because it's the only thing we've seen, but what are your guys' thoughts on something like a script logo?
That could definitely work. I've always felt maybe even something similar to the Ottawa 67s, how they have that just O and then the 67 there for that logo, kind of like a throwbackish type logo. I feel like also if they took this in a more throwback direction, I feel the brand would feel more cohesive than rather feel like getting ripped off by the Raptors.
And I mean, a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, whenever we talked about, whenever they first were announced, we were kind of talking about, okay, it seems like the natural direction for them to go to use a red uniform, because they only have, like, each team only has one uniform in this league, and red was kind of the missing link in there. So, and, they unveiled their branding with a little bit of red in there. So I don't think it's too much of a surprise to see red in there. But also, too, why are there so many strokes on that logo? Because you've got the red inside and then white, black, white, gold.
I
There's
guess it
so
just
many
looks.
outlines on that thing.
They thought it would look too skinny, so they added a bunch of things.
Well, it looks like they tried to use the white lines to just kind of break up every other color, because they have it in the circle too. It's the black circle, then a white outline, then the red. And the only thing on the logo that isn't outlined is the maple leaf.
I don't know. The more I look at this logo, the more I'm getting like racing type
Yep.
vibes from it.
The first thing I thought of when I saw it is I thought it looked like a unicycle, and I haven't been able to shake that. And like, it's kind of like, for me, like when I was growing up, the goat head Sabres logo, for some reason, like my brain just did not process it the right way, and for the longest time I thought because on the left side it has like the swoop of like the neck and the chin area. I thought that like opening on the left side was a mouth, and I like saw it backwards and thought it was this weird like demonic thing with like a horn coming out of like each like front and back side of its head. And like still to this day, like I have to like take a second to like settle and like understand that it's like a buffalo facing right. And I feel like that's gonna be like the same impact on me with this logo. Is it's always going to be a unicycle for the first 2 seconds I look at it, and then I can slow down and see it as a T6, T06, whatever you want to call it.
Holy crap, Justin! I thought that was just me with the goat head logo.
Really? That's
I didn't know anybody else saw it that way. I always used to see it that way too.
That's great. Oh my gosh! For the longest time, I was like, "What is this weird like dinosaur bird thing?" Like
the buffalo
and like that
demon.
little tuft in the middle looks like a little tiny tongue.
Yep, exactly, 100%. That's what I thought. I thought it was like this screeching bird thing, and I was like, "Why do people like this logo?"
Well, I mean, like the buffalo demon goats has a good ring to it, you know. Like put that on the ice and sell it.
I'd watch them. I mean, it has the right colors for it too, red, black.
Yeah.
All right, Toronto Demon Goats. Let's make it happen.
And then they come out to Doom's Rip and Tear.
Yeah. Speaking of different names, did y'all see the other names that they were thinking about?
For Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what else did they have on their
Polar
list?
bears, tigers, towers, Lady Leafs, which is no.
Yeah.
St. Pat's
Ugh.
Kraken, which is like, all right, Seattle thought it'd be cool, so what if we did? Lakers Toronto HC, which is also no.
And
Frost,
they had HC Toronto too.
yeah.
They had them both up there.
Pioneers and Furies again.
I looked at the list that they had like put out with some of the names that they had gotten, and like some of them are actually like pretty good, honestly.
Wow.
Like they have one called the Tempest on here. I thought that would be pretty cool. I don't know what the hell they would do for a logo, but like the Tempest, I could live with Shamrocks, but not St. Pat's. That's a no
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
But like
going with the Lady Leafs or St. Pat's, I think any of that would have kind of been like, okay, you're just stealing from the Maple Leafs now.
I can't believe they even considered Lady Leafs. Like that's such like a high school like thing that I don't even understand it for high schools. Like why can't women also be dragons? Like
Anybody here watch Letterkenny?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you remember the season where the hockey players, Jonesy and Riley, they go and coach the women's team?
Yeah.
They're known as the Shamrockettes. If you notice in that, every team has ETTS or ETTES on the end. So like they're the Bulldogettes, the Tigerettes, just as a joke. And I just think like when I hear like Lady Leafs or something, like I automatically go to that. I automatically go
So
back
what you're
to
saying is the Toronto Leafettes is what they should have been called.
exactly.
The Toronto Maple
And-
Leafs.
And I'm pretty sure someone's gonna if they were to stick and go like full Maple Leafs like the Furies did, I'm pretty sure they would have been called the Leafettes as a nickname.
Gosh,
Yeah,
Amazing.
although, Sixlets sounds like success.
it does.
Also reminds me of the candy, the Sixlets.
What's a sixlet?
So
The
they're
dyslexic
like miniature malted milk balls that are in some type of chocolate food coloring, and they have like a hard shell candy. So they're almost like M&Ms, but they
Like
come
a
in,
Whopper?
oh, I like
That's
that,
what I was
but they're color coded like an M&M, and then they come in this plastic wrapper that essentially you can use gravity by dividing them apart within the wrapper to open the wrapper.
like Whoppers.
Right.
All right.
So they're Whoppers.
Look
The more
them
you
up.
know.
Look them
Colored
up. They're
Whoppers.
tasty.
I'm
The
not
more
gonna
you
lie,
know.
I know what Sixlets are, and that hardly made sense.
I know. Because the fact that Chris didn't know it, I just wanted to see how confusing I could get him with it.
Oh,
But yeah, I think overall, like when you reach out to the fans to get names, I think that was a problem they were going to run into because there's a lot of names on this list that are just throwbacks to other names that they used. Like
Yeah.
Furies is up here, Arrows is up here. You're going to run into stuff like the St. Pat's. Fans that want to bring back the St. Pat's brand. Lady Leafs. The Lady Leafs one is funny because I was looking into the Canadian Women's Hockey League a couple weeks ago. And I found out that Ottawa actually had a team when the league started, and they were called the Ottawa Lady Senators. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder that team failed. Like, that team actually still exists. They play in like the PWHL now or something like that. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'll give them props for doing something.
I know Pittsburgh has a semi-pro. I was gonna say I know Pittsburgh's semi-pro team. They're the Puffins.
nice.
Okay.
Which, if anyone knows what a puffin is, it's native to maritime Canada, and it has a colorful beak. But I guess because they were trying to play off the Penguins, it's odd how a lot of women's teams seem to want to play off of that, or they just do that. So I commend the Toronto Six for actually coming up with their own name, but
Could have come up with
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I give them props for coming up with something different. But like at the same time, I don't mind when women's teams that do playoffs of the men's teams, like, Puffins to Penguins. Like, that's still kind of unique but similar in a way. But Lady Leafs is literally just putting lady in front of the brand or lady.
It's like when AHL teams like have like a name and a color scheme that could relate to their parent team, but they're not like, yes, the Pittsburgh Penguins, so we'll be the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. They're like, oh, they're the Devils, so we'll also be the Devils. I think it's cool when you have like the Stockton Heat, for example, like definitely related to Flames, but definitely distinct in its own identity.
Yeah.
I guess it's almost like, too, how
Right.
the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins are nicknamed the Baby Pens.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
kind of
fair.
like that, although it makes more sense because there's actually a direct correlation between the two teams, unlike this, where the only correlation is they play in the same city and they play the same sport.
Yeah, it definitely makes it sound like they're related to the Leafs, like officially, if you do that.
Yeah.
It would make more sense if the
Well-
league or the team, like the Leafs, Maple Leafs, actually sponsored the team.
Mhm.
But as of now, I don't believe any of that is true. So
Yeah.
I know certain teams have affiliations
Mhm.
through the NHL teams in that league, but the league itself isn't like I'm not sure what the partnership is with the NHL, but
Yeah,
I
don't
was
think
gonna
there's many
say
between
if
the-
honestly if
with the league.
I was gonna say honestly if you think about it though, like if you look throughout history, you'll notice like and I'll go to a sport I'm familiar with, minor league baseball. Like how they were talking about shrinking down everything. There was a time when literally Western Pennsylvania alone had its own minor league system, like had its own minor league of teams from small towns, like where you're from near your area, Bpoe, and from other suburban towns all the way up to Youngstown, Ohio, but they were all named after their parent club primarily. So you had like the Scottdale Cardinals. They were a Cardinals team. For those of you unaware, that's a team out east of Pittsburgh, or a city out of east of Pittsburgh. But like I said, overall, the idea that they came up with this, but it just reminds me of like the Bodie McBoatface incident for naming something. Is that you're always going to get those absurd ones, and for some reason the internet just captures onto it. So
Toronto McToronto face.
Toronto.
But to Steve's point, it almost kind of reminds me too of whenever I was a little kid. I played baseball for 1 year, and it was just like a local PAL league, and all of the teams were named, like literally named after MLB teams. I played on the Diamondbacks
Yeah.
myself,
Good for
and like
you.
we used the same logos and everything.
Wow. I know a famous person. That's awesome.
You got drafted, Bpoe? That's really cool. Proud
I
of you.
did.
We can go around telling the world that Bpoe's a D-back.
Was a D-back.
Anywho, I think it was a pretty good discussion there on just kind of, the namings of teams in general and of the Toronto Sixlets, or whatever we're going to refer to them in jest, because after this conversation, I don't think we're ever going to call them the Toronto Six again.
I am 100% calling them
No.
Sixlets for the rest of their existence.
Sounds good.
that's gonna. Oh God, we need to come up with a shirt now for that.
Oh gosh. John's gonna
Well, now that you've said it on air, now we have to do it. Gosh dang
We're
it, Steve.
legally binding now.
Yeah, why would you do that?
We'll work on that in the background, folks.
This is why we don't bring him on the
I'll work
podcast
on that in the
regularly.
background for everybody.
Gosh dang it, Steve, giving us more things to do. Speaking of more things to do, let's do
That
some more
is-
things. Let's do some more
What
things.
a way with words.
He has such a way with words. Let's move on to these NHL Team Rundowns we've been doing, going through every single NHL franchise in reverse chronological order of when they've started. And we've arrived at the year of 1993. I'm not sure what happened that year. If anybody knows anything cool that happened, let us know that year. But we can tell you some things that happened. And there's 3 NHL teams that started playing that year. The Anaheim Mighty Ducks of Anaheim Ducks, which were just the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim then, and are now just the Anaheim Ducks. The Florida Panthers, and the Dallas Stars, moving from Minnesota to Dallas, and therefore becoming, something new and entirely different. So we're going to start off with these currently known as the Anaheim Ducks. They've really had 2 distinct eras of their history, the Disney era and the not Disney era. The first era defined by eggplant and jade as a color scheme, and these days now they've gone black, orange, gold. So a little different there, a lot of jerseys to choose from. And we're going to start off with everyone's favorite uniform for these Ducks, the Quack Quacks. And let's go with Hunter to start this off.
I'm going to go with their uniform set from right at the start. The original Anaheim Mighty Ducks jerseys. Those are classics to me. And, there's just little details about them that I like compared to other years. Whenever they brought them back, they kind of got rid of the teal striping on the pants and just made them a solid eggplant, which I thought was kind of boring. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid uniform set. So 93 to 95.
All right, Justin?
Yeah, I think it's hard to go against the Mighty Ducks look. I mean, I think that's something that a lot of people are familiar with, and it's instantly recognizable both amongst and unamongst, if that's a word, hockey fans, to the point that it's like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I think rather than the inaugural set of it, though, I think moving into that 1996 rendition of it when they added the shoulder patch, I think that was a positive step forward. I own one of the original jerseys without the shoulder patch, but I think having the shoulder patch there is definitely an improvement. I would definitely say it's either between that set or the current alternate with the same logo. I think it looks really nice recolored as well.
All right, let's get Steve's thoughts.
So this was actually my favorite West Coast team as a kid growing up. I guess you could say part of the movies were it, because I was born in '91, and obviously growing up, that's what you watched. But what I really liked, honestly, between 98 and 99, when they had both the Disney set, as I like to call it, with the shoulder patch, but they also had their real first jersey set that wasn't based off of a Disney movie. It had the horse collar on it, and it had had that really full length sleeve design. I really honestly don't know how to compare it, but instead they went with a teal jersey at home with some eggplant and silver, and then jade again in the sleeves, and then the white jersey was white, and it had the jade, eggplant, and silver striping on the sleeves, and it had the rounded numbers. So I'd have to say, overall, for diversity purposes, I think that was one of their, my favorite time for them of their jerseys is having those 4 jerseys to choose from.
And Bpoe.
Now, I'm not sure if I've vocalized this on the podcast before, but I think that the original Mighty Ducks logo is highly overrated due to nostalgia. It's just very cartoonish, and it doesn't fit today. But it's really hard to go against that original set anyways, just because the jerseys are so nice. I also don't even hate their current set as much as everybody else seems to. It's not great, for sure. We'll get to that later. But I don't hate it as much as everybody else does. But that original is just something about it. Especially the eggplant one, the purple one. There's just something about it. It just looks really nice, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I think everybody else covered the bases.
Okay, I am under the impression, or it is my belief rather, that people have been brainwashed by the Disney era. I am not a huge fan of that color scheme. I respect it for being unique. But my favorite look for these Anaheim Ducks is their current set, their home and away jerseys. I'm not a huge fan of the third jersey as much, although I know people do really like it. To choose between the two, I'd probably say the away jersey. It's kind of hard to balance all those colors, but I think they do a decent job of it. And I think it's a much more successful and clean color scheme than anything they've had before. And so I'm going to be a rebel and go against the grain there. Okay, let's get on to everybody's least favorite uniform ever.
I was going to say, Chris, you're not just going against the grain of us, you're going against the grain of pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm. Just society.
For some reason,
is just
the current set
yeah.
is just, for some reason, the current set is just hated universally, it seems. But like I said, I don't hate it as much as everybody else seems to, for sure.
I mean, I'm not sure if being an LA Kings fan has something to do with that. I don't know why it would. Because I'm saying the current set that I have to see a few times a year is the best one they have. But we can get into a little more. Let's go with everybody's least favorite uniform for these Anaheim Ducks. We'll start with Hunter again.
I am going to go with their alternate from 2003 to 2006. I don't hate black jerseys as much as Bpoe does, but this one just feels like it's a black jersey that they have for the sake of having a black jersey. It doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the uniform, especially considering they use the same pant shell and helmet for it. And I'm not a huge fan of word mark logos to begin with, so like that just doesn't. I don't like that one.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, I've been literally thinking about this back and forth as we've been talking this whole podcast to try and decide. But I think, I really don't enjoy one of the ones that Steve likes, coincidentally enough. I like the first real design, whatever you want to call it, they went with the weird, massive shoulder yokes. And like, if I recall, it has like mesh material on most of it, which is like of the era, but looks weird looking back. Like the whole underarm area, I think, is mesh. And then like
that was a Nike thing though.
Yeah, and like
Nike did it to everybody.
The full length yokes are like shiny as well a little bit. Like there's a sheen to them, which is really odd. So there's like some weird like pseudo futuristic aspects there, and I think I think you do have to take a shot after coming away from a look as iconic as that original Mighty Ducks one was, but I feel like with their color scheme, like I feel like since the eggplant and jade are already both darker colors, you really, really need white to pop off of that. And I think the reliance on, that gray silver over the white, I think was a really big misstep. And so those jerseys are just very dark. And I really don't find, much pleasing about them, to be honest.
Steve.
I respect Justin for his decision, but I'm actually going to have to go with when the Anaheim Ducks went over to Reebok. The white jersey, it doesn't really bother me all that much. It's just the black jersey that does. And I don't know if it's the fact that it was a design that they made prior to the Edge, and I thought it looked really good on like the classic template, but when it went over to Edge, I just instantly hated it, because if you look on the pre-Edge, it connected all the way around, and then for some reason they made it so that they had an insert on the sides of the jersey to where it just doesn't connect anymore to it, and it gave it a totally different look, and it did not look well with that script on there. So mine is going to be the first Edge jerseys that they had from 2007 to 2010.
I believe too, when they went to Edge, they made the primary logo smaller too, like to fit it in the cut. And like if you go back and watch like some games, like I remember being, growing up in Dallas and having season tickets growing up pretty much my entire childhood. Like this was something in the West you saw quite a bit. And like, honestly, with as vertically short as this logo is, and the fact that they made it smaller to fit horizontally, like it was honestly hard to distinguish it had a logo at all a lot of the time coming from the stands, which is just like totally unacceptable.
All right, Bpoe.
I'm going to have to go with their 2014 Stadium Series jersey on this one. Now, Personally, I love the orange for Anaheim. I love that this is part of their color scheme, and I do like their color scheme currently. But that jersey, there's not enough elements to contrast it. It looks like a traffic cone. And also, I don't think the beige and the orange work well together in general. So on this one, the issue is compounded in the striping, because they are touching each other when I don't think they do on any other jersey. Hashtag HJs or hashtag Jersey Nerds Podcast After Dark. And I mean, the chrome logo, I can't blame Anaheim for that, but it still sucks. There's just way too much orange on this one. It's not enough to balance it out.
Something else has happened, but something absolutely remarkable has happened here. One, we don't agree. None of us agree on what the worst or our least favorite uniform for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks or whatever are.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know.
I don't think
Secondly,
it adds to the conversation.
Secondly, I find it amazing that none of us are going with the 95-96 alternate jersey.
Wild Wing. Don't you dare.
No,
look, like I mentioned last week, it's not particularly good, but it has charisma.
It was the same with the Arizona jerseys. Nobody picked the peyote jersey, and like, don't you come for my Wild Wing like that? Come on.
Exactly. They have
He's a
charisma
little
that
boy.
the other jerseys don't.
I think you want to put the Wild Wing in its own category because you can't. If you say it's the
Not a hockey.
favorite, you're gonna get laughed at. But if you say that you hate it, that feels like a cop out because that jersey was meant to be a part of the alternate program. And if you look at all the jerseys that started the alternate program, they were all a little wild. I mean, just for instance, as a Penguins fan, two different sleeves. Like the one sleeve had a different stripe than the other. They had that gradient, and then they had the gray with the thin yellow striping yoke. So it's one of those things where I have to say that that's like an anomaly jersey where everybody
Not a jersey.
loves it because of what it was. But if you were to make that a full time, I think people would have had a stroke.
I'm having a stroke just looking at it. Yeah, but as bad as I think that one is, my pick, my least favorite jersey uniform, is their 25th anniversary uniform. The black jersey with the jade yoke and stripe. There are so many colors in here. They tried to combine, all the colors from their previous two eras.
I refuse to recognize this jersey just because it was a terrible mashup that was birthed onto this world and should have not have seen the light of day.
No, what amazes
And
me
you didn't pick it as your least favorite though.
It amazes me that there are many people who liked this jersey when it was worn and like to see, but there are so many colors going on here. You have black, you have jade, you have eggplant, you have white, you have silver, you have gold, you have orange. There are 7
Literally everything.
colors featured on this uniform.
Hey,
Right,
Chris,
and
I'm going to go on a limb. I think I know why people liked this one. Because it had the Mighty Ducks logo on the front. That's
But they already
probably
had
it,
an
to be
alternate
honest
with the
with you.
Mighty Ducks logo on it, and they got rid of it for this crap.
And this would be the
For 1
perfect
year.
this would be the perfect opportunity to explain of a good way to reuse a vintage logo and a bad way to reuse it. The good way is the current alternate that they have, which is what they came out with the last year or two of the Reebok Edge era, and it converted well over into not only their color scheme because they recolored the triangle in it, but they kept the sticks yellow on the jersey. But it works overall with its combinations. But when you look, that other 25th anniversary jersey is just like literally someone said, let's just throw the two identities together and see what's the best one we can come up with. And that's not how you reuse a logo. I think their current alternate, that is a perfect example of a reuse of an old logo, similar to what the Penguins did when they went back to the skate logo as an alternate originally pre-Edge. And then, of course, the Edge ruined that. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah,
I will say, too,
amazing.
I don't agree with people liking this jersey, like possibly because of that logo on the front, because this was my runner-up for worst jersey 100%. I'm just putting my, reasoning out there, which is why people might like this thing. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Yeah,
Indeed, it is.
It's weird because they tried
In
to
the
modernize
90s is
none of the decision makes sense. Like why is there a gray stripe on the yoke? Like first, why is there a stripe on the yoke? I mean, I would say first, why is there a yoke? Then first, why is there a stripe on the yoke? Why is it gray? Like that doesn't make sense with the rest of the color balance. Like there's so many questionable things. Like the Pentagon is purple because why not? And what if our logos had used the colors that weren't on the jersey anywhere else? That could be fun.
And when you saw this jersey on the ice, if they used any purple eggplant color, it just looked like black
Yep.
from a distance,
Yep.
and it just got completely lost.
yes,
For the longest time, like when it was, I think it was leaked before it was unveiled, and I was not sure whether it was purple or black, like the entire jersey. Like it's they're that close in color that it's like why are these ever like on the same jersey together?
Well, it's like you already had a black home jersey. Why'd you need a black alternate too?
Yep.
You could have gone with the eggplant color for that,
Or the jade, or the silver, or the orange, or the gold. Like
Oh gosh, now I just pictured this jersey as orange, but with the eggplant and jade accents. Oh gosh, that would be. Oh.
the base color for every other color in the jersey, and then you have a full series. It's great. Where
Just
one
just insert new technology into the jersey that's like those LED lights that just slowly fade in and out from each color, and just do it like that. The base color just goes from black to eggplant to orange to green, or to jade to white to silver.
Bpoe, the ideal jersey section is next. We're not there yet. Hold that.
I will say though, this jersey, if it was entirely eggplant and all of that black was gone, it would go from a terrible jersey to a mediocre jersey. No.
Yep, easy.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it'd be mediocre, but they redid the original Mighty Ducks jersey once when they had it for the 20th anniversary for Reebok, and they wore it for that one game against the Senators.
Yeah.
So
He's got a
I
point.
guess they were trying to. I guess they were trying and wondering, do we just throw that on the Adidas template, or do we come up with something new? So, like, I understand where they were coming from with it, but it really feels like that they were rushing to do it, and they didn't take their time, and they just had everyone in office try and figure it out.
I feel like it's kind of like we discussed with the Rams. Like they had a look that they knew everyone would like, but it would be like, oh, you didn't do anything. Like we already have that. We saw that one coming, so they were like, let's do that, but like let's do it like with style. And then they didn't really understand what style means, but they tried.
They tried. Yeah. Okay. So let's
Did
just
they?
move on to the. We're trying here. That's what's important. I'm trying to
We
move
are, but
on to
did they?
get everyone. I'm trying here. Let's
Someone talk
get
about
everyone's
it.
let's get everyone's personal kind of ideal uniform for this franchise. A lot of options, a lot of directions you could go. Starting with Hunter.
Honestly, like I can see Bpoe's point about nostalgia and maybe bringing back the original Mighty Ducks logo isn't the best idea for the ultimate or like their best set. But like I don't hate their current logo. I just don't like the striping on their current jerseys. So like if they simplified that, got rid of that phantom yoke on their home jersey, like I think it would look a lot cleaner and just a lot simpler and better.
All right, Justin.
I really don't like the current logo, not because of what it is, but just because of the colors in it. And I really don't enjoy their not even Vegas gold, like their brown peanut butter. Honestly, like peanut butter is just came to mind, and now I like that because peanut butter is great. But I really don't like the contrast of their gold and orange currently. Something that I've done, plugging my concepts again, and an ideal jersey thing is playing around with orange and the jade from their past set, and it's like definitely like an out there combination, but I think it's cool to have teams have unique color combinations and unique colors that they can claim, which I'm sure we'll get into in the later discussions of this podcast. But I think playing around with their current look, and I think orange is a really good thing for them being in Orange County. But I think playing around with other colors you can throw in there, be it the jade or be it some other color you want to look at. That isn't that peanut buttery gold look that doesn't really do a lot to contrast against it.
I'm gonna
Right,
skip the
from
line here. I'm gonna skip the line here to say, Justin mentioned using orange and jade. Give me eggplant and orange. 100%. That's my ideal right there. I think that would be a great color scheme. You got a nice dark with a nice bright. And, I mean, who else uses anything similar? Nobody uses an eggplant or purple shade at all. Not many teams use orange. Come on. They've got something unique from their history right in front of them that they
I
can
feel like there's a reason that no one has done that.
I mean, the Orlando Solar Bears kind of. I mean, they're orange and purple, and they definitely like work well.
All right, Steve, say something.
So you're all gonna hate me.
Oh no! As if we already don't.
It's okay, Steve. We already did.
Personally,
There it
I know. There it is. But personally, I really do like the alternate they have. I feel like it's not a great balance between like old and new. But and I'm gonna go back to I'm dating myself when we had the roller hockey international competition under HJC like 2 years ago. Matt McElroy did a Anaheim Bullfrogs one, which was basically this jersey, but he made a white version. And I think if you took that, or if you just took the Mighty Duck logo, put it on the shoulders, and put the web D on there, and grant an okay logo in my opinion. I think that would be the ideal set, even though, yes, I know orange is becoming popular, but I'm also interested in like an orange and teal, but an orange and teal feels kind of like Flint Tropic-y. And I understand because it's also feels similar to what the Miami Dolphins would have as a color scheme on there. But with the eggplant in orange, I'm not sure how I would feel because essentially that eggplant, and I'm color deficient, it kind of looks a little more red to me than it does purple, almost like a magenta. So I don't really know how well those would actually clash together.
Some great thoughts
Okay,
there.
let me
Shout out to
let me maybe clarify. Maybe it doesn't have to be the exact shade of eggplant that they used before, but some shade of purple I think would work great with the orange, even if it's like a much darker variant.
So you're gonna end up pulling. You're gonna end up pulling a Arizona Diamondbacks where they don't take the exact teal color they have, but they come up with a new teal color.
I guess.
Is that what you were stating to intend to do?
I guess I'm not quite as familiar with the Diamondbacks. I saw the the uniforms, but I kind of forgotten the details by now.
All right, some interesting thoughts here.
Uh,
Some messy thoughts. Yeah, from earlier, shout out to Matt McElroy, current graphic designer for the Vegas Golden Knights. Give us tickets and/or jobs. And yeah, so and okay, I think Bpoe's had enough airtime as far as his ideal jersey, so I'm gonna just go on to mine. Personally, I really don't mind. I kind of like the striping that the Ducks currently have. I've gone to a number of San Diego Gulls games. They use basically the same thing, just with a slightly different color scheme, and it doesn't look bad on the ice. But I get people really love the initial Mighty Ducks of Anaheim striping. And honestly, I think I did a concept probably about a year ago. I don't know where it is. Probably put it somewhere. Where I basically took that striping but gave it the current color scheme. And honestly, I wouldn't complain about that. I prefer the current logo, but fans seem to like the throwback logo, so might as well throw that on there. I'd say I think current color scheme with the old striping. I think that could look pretty nice. Did we do it? Did we finally cover everything about this franchise? There was a lot there.
We didn't even get into the
Yes, we
Wild
did.
Wing that much.
No, we didn't. We really
We
didn't.
got into it enough.
The Wild Wing definitely wins for like worst font.
Move on.
So does that mean we need to devote another hour of this podcast to the Wild Wing?
Someone say move on.
Go.
Hey
Yeah,
guys, everybody
move
talk at
on.
the same time. We're already doing pretty good at that, but let's go.
Hello and welcome to Sunrise, Florida, where we're talking about the Florida Panthers. Started playing in 1993. They've had a rather consistent color scheme throughout. Some combination of red, some shade of gold, one or another, and navy. They've had quite a few different designs, though. Transitions, from their beginnings to the Reebok Edge system and back out of it. So let's start off everybody's favorite jersey for these Florida Panthers. Let's go with Hunter again.
I am going to go with their classic look from 2006, 2007 with the navy red and white jerseys. Those ones are classics to me. I just really like those ones. Nothing specific.
All right. Thanks for being non-specific. Justin?
No problem.
I think I'm going to make some enemies, but I love their current look. I think I honestly so much about it. I really like I love, I really am on board with the shoulder number trend. I think it's really cool. I love it for, outdoor games and alternates and such. I think, it's cool to have for full-time sets. I don't think it's something that should be standard. I think it's good if it stays on a subset of teams, but I wouldn't mind if a couple more teams adopted it. I love that they're going with, the unique shoulder patches, combining the state flag, combining that kind of crawling panther. I think that's a really cool look. I think the captain patches on the arms, the little additional thing that they get military style, I think that's kind of take it or leave it for me. I don't really think it's necessary because no one ever really notices it. I love the fact that they're able to balance blue really well despite not using a ton of it. I think it works really well having the blue equipment, even though it's just, blue color, blue on the logo, blue in the numbers of the away, I think works really well, across the board. Their font is really nice. I think it might be the second best font in the NHL, frankly. We'll get to the first later in the podcast as well. But honestly, there's so much I love about it. I think it's cool that they, took a subtle military theme without, making olive green jerseys or anything like that. I think they, really adapted to this new identity very well.
Steve.
So my favorite are 98 through 2003, just because I love how they darkened the red as well as the blue. They had that navy red and white jersey, and then the navy jersey had the panther breaking the hockey stick compared to just the jumping panther on the other two, and also the arched name on the back. So those jerseys, I think, are the ideal ones for me, and I terribly miss them so.
I'm sorry for your loss. Bpoe?
I'm going to 100% agree with Justin on this one. I think their current uniforms are heavily underrated and definitely the best they've ever worn. That original Panther logo, I think, like the Mighty Ducks one, is heavily overrated for nostalgia. Granted, the updated version that they unveiled with the rebrand is a great logo, but I definitely don't. I'm not clamoring for them to use it. I think it would be nice for them to throw it on an alternate, but their current set Justin covered a lot of the bases. The font is very unique while still being classic. The subtle military cues in there work perfectly. The shoulder numbers, while I'm not clamoring for that to be like a regular thing for everybody to be using, I think it works very well in specific circumstances, and I think this is one of those. And also, a very subtle detail too that I love that they added in there is the laces crossing over for the Florida flag. Just an incredible subtle detail that I just love this rebrand. The only thing I might change is move that chest stripe around the back, but it's I understand why people don't like the new logo, but I think it's still a great logo and great rebrand overall. It's just I think the quintessential Panthers uniform for me as of now.
I think it's funny how Justin thought he had an unpopular opinion, when in reality two other people agree with him. I'm gonna agree with both Bpoe and Justin here that their current set is the best set they have. There's just something about that navy helmet, red jersey, navy pants combo that just really, really works with the white stripes and the gold accents. Just something about that color scheme is incredible looking on the ice. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of it. Like Bevo said, there's probably a couple things that could be refined or changed, but overall, it's a really criminally underrated look. The colors, just work amazingly together.
I've got to
Okay,
add
from the
too onto that. The way that they muted the gold in this set is perfect because in their previous sets maybe it worked better in the 90s, but it's very just the three primary colors just are very vibrant, and muting that gold and demoting it to tertiary and keeping it very keeping it as a tertiary and not relying on it too much. That shade of gold works perfectly with all of the color that they have everywhere else.
I completely agree. And let's move on to our least favorite jerseys for the Florida Panthers. I'm very interested to see what we come up with here. Hunter?
My least favorite was hard to pick, so I'm going to go with every jersey that they wore during the Reebok Edge era minus the 1 year that they wore their current set, because those were all really freaking bad jerseys. 2007 up until 2011, they had that piping down the front and back of the jersey, except the back piping didn't complete all the way to the top. I was never a fan of that blue alternate they had for a couple seasons. And they've always had that just weird underarm striping and then having the full arm length yoke across. And I hated it.
All right, Justin?
I'll have to check as we do more of these, but these might be the one team in the NHL that hasn't had a bad jersey in my mind. Like I don't think any of them is even below average. I think the Reebok ones, the original ones that Hunter was just talking about. I mean, suffer from being templated and suffer from having that apron striping that was so prototypical of Reebok jerseys. Noted they did make a point of getting rid of that in 2011 when they brought the red jersey back, and they cleaned it up on the white too. So props for them for really recognizing that wasn't ideal and taking a step forward. But honestly, I don't think anything is bad in their jersey history. I think, those are probably the worst just because they're a templated design. But again, that's not something they had control over, but rather that was, Reebok mandated to some extent.
All right, let's go, Steve.
So their alternate jersey from 2009 to 2012 is the absolute worst. This was at the time where everyone jumped on the bandwagon of Roundel logos, blue jerseys, and it has to look like that it's at least 40 years old. And it was neat when the Penguins did it. I understand it, why they did that and everything. But looking back at some of the decisions, I don't understand why the Panthers kept this around for so long for what they did. Because, I mean, the only thing redeemable really might have been that Panther head logo in the roundel. Everything else about this is an extremely dismissive design. And they're honestly, their jerseys during Reebok, except minus their rebrand, are very close to becoming also worse here. Ultimately, because Reebok basically gave them, no pun intended on this, the short end of the stick and said, "Here you go," and just smiled to them and said, "We know you're not a good team, so we're not going to give you good jerseys."
All right, Bpoe.
I do kind of agree with Justin in that I don't think the Panthers have ever had an atrociously bad uniform, but I'm not going to say they never had a bad one, because that original Reebok Edge set, I did think falls flat. For one, you've got the problem that's been mentioned that it's templated, that piping, the apron piping does not look great. The home is navy, which a little bit too dark and close to black for me in a lot of cases. Although this one does have a lot of color, I'll give it that. And they fixed a lot of those missteps with their second Edge set that, cleaned everything up and prioritized red. And that one's better. Still not great, but it's better. So I definitely think that original Edge set is the worst, even though it's not, atrociously bad. And I'm trying to think of something to compare it to, but it's not like, I guess it's not like how a lot of people would see the Wild Wing as atrociously bad. I never want to see the thing again. I need bleach. I need to bleach my eyes now. But it's not great either.
I'm gonna completely agree with that sentiment. That first Reebok Edge set, I'd call it atrocious. Really, that the white jersey's definitely worse than the color jersey. And like you said, they did making the red the primary, or having a red primary jersey 2011 to 2016 with that set definitely was a little better, but definitely still bad for sure. So that the first Reebok Edge set, especially the white one, just the weird apron piping as we called it, and just the red that extended through the yoke down the shoulders all the way to the end of the sleeves, and then you have the striping underneath that, like on the underarm. Like I said, a result of the template, but still pretty bad. Just with Florida in general, it always baffled me how the panther itself was always a different shade of gold than they were using on the uniforms and on their other logos, and that doesn't help the jersey at all. But yeah, that first white Reebok Edge is definitely the worst one for me.
Something I just noticed, I was looking up the jerseys from that Reebok era and noticed from NHL uniforms as well that they had blue equipment. And it's like they were kind of the precursor to what Nashville does currently, where there's like virtually no blue on their away uniform, and yet they wear blue equipment. And do I think it works better than Nashville currently does? Yes. But like looking back at, images of people in full equipment, like the blue gloves and pants with the very, very red heavy jersey on the white jersey, like, is just very glaring and clashing and not great.
All right, let's go to everyone's ideal uniform for the Florida Panthers. Hunter?
Honestly, like looking at their new set more, it's starting to grow on me. I wasn't a huge fan of the kind of like badge logo when they first released it, but overall, like I don't really have any big problems with their current uniform set. I do kind of miss the Leaping Panther kind of logo, but I feel like again that might just be more nostalgia than anything. I think they did a modernized version of the Leaping Panther. I think they use it on their helmets currently. So I don't know, maybe an alternate down the line, but overall, like I think maybe a couple small changes to their current set, and they're probably good to go.
Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I think their current set, as I said, is beautiful. Like, it's definitely a jersey that I've definitely want to own at some point. There's just so much I like about it. And if I was creating a Panthers brand from scratch, would I have gotten to this route? No, definitely not. Definitely not something I would have even considered. But I think they've done a really good job, and now that it's here, like, I really like it for what it is. And I think it does cool things to connect to, the military background of, I think it was their owner who kind of pushed them in this route. And I think that's, a really cool way to do it without, being super direct about it. And, that's echoed by, I think the Springfield Thunderbirds are their AHL team, are they not?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's something that I think trickles down as well, where they're even more military look focused. So I think they establish, a good identity, not just for themselves, but for their, affiliated teams too. I agree that, seeing a Navy alternate and maybe seeing that with the Leaping Panther logo would be really cool. Like, I'm always pretty much in favor of adding an alternate to a look. I think, giving a team an extra jersey to wear, to experiment the brand with is always good. So I think, taking that next logical step into a Navy alternates, I think that's really the only way to make this better. I think they really hit the nail on the head.
Steve?
I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. The current set itself is just it's not like, what's the best way? It's the best set they've had so far, in my opinion. It's a much needed improvement. I don't really think you can improve much on this because it has that, like, keep it simple stupid approach to it. So I truly think, though, that if they were going to progress and get a alternate, I would like to see a Navy one. I'm kind of in the fandom where I love the Leaping Panther, so if they were to do the Leaping Panther on a Navy jersey, and kind of make it similar to what the original Panther jerseys looked like, with some maybe angled sleeve striping on it, that would be nice, but not like a direct copy from it with just the new colors on it. So, but definitely this is their ideal set right now.
Bpoe?
You guys ready for a lukewarm take?
Oh,
I'm gonna keep this
one.
I'm gonna keep this one pretty short and simple because I pretty much mentioned all of this whenever I was talking about my favorite uniform. But it's their current set. I mean, for the ideal one, maybe just move the chest stripe around the back, clean up the collar a little bit. Not those laces. The laces are fine. The laces are great. Add a navy alternate with a lot of other color on it, with the Leaping Panther on the front, and I think you've got one of the best sets in the NHL. And I think they already have one of. I don't know if I'd say it's tough because it's a really nice set, but I don't know where to put it in the ranking just off the top of my head. But it's up there for sure, 100% already. Let alone if they make a couple cleanups to it.
Let's keep this train rolling. Their current set is already incredible, in my opinion. Like we've said, just a couple tweaks. I'm interested to see what their current Leaping Panther alternate logo would look like on both of their current jerseys. I'm just curious to what that would look like. I don't know if they should do it or not. And a Navy alternate had been rumored at some point, so I assume that logo would go on there. And honestly, like Bpoe said, maybe just an away collar change, but that's really all I can think of to make this any better. And it's amazing that in the year 2020, that we can all agree that a 2020 uniform set is the best that a team has ever had, especially with all the 90s nostalgia that's going on now.
That is true.
Did we agree on the same, or well, at least I personally thought the same thing with Carolina, that they have their best currently, and Minnesota that we've already talked about.
Yeah, so we definitely agreed on. We agreed on the home jersey there, but here we're agreeing on kind of like the whole set.
No,
that's fair.
Amazing.
I was gonna say because I didn't think thinking their current sets or a couple teams' current sets were their best isn't the most rarest of things on this podcast.
Yeah, not rare, but still, it's.
After all that, agree on anything nowadays is hard enough.
Yeah, after all that mess we went through with Anaheim, this is a pretty satisfying result, really.
Good job, Florida.
Yeah, for once.
True. Florida man.
For once. Good job, Florida. Your hockey team looks good. Now please start going to their games.
but also don't because social distancing.
Yes.
Stop
So the
going to
Panthers
the
were ahead of
beach.
their time.
Stop going to the beach. Start going to the arena.
Social distancing for years.
Okay. And now let us move just a little west of there. Not too west, just somewhat west. We're going to Dallas and looking at the Stars from the Lone Star State. Of course, they were the Minnesota North Stars, and when they moved to Dallas, they dropped the North because Dallas isn't north of very much. I mean, north of Mexico, but whatever there. Anyway, talking about the Dallas Stars, they've had a few different color schemes, but it's always been variations on green and black, with or without a yellow or gold in there. And so let's everybody give their favorite uniform for the Dallas Stars. Hunter?
I'm going to go with their current home set. I really like the rebrand since they brought it in. And I feel like they did a good job picking out a green that works really well. It keeps the team unique.
Okay, Justin.
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be a lot of talk of the early 2000s here, probably both good and bad. But totally agree with Hunter. As someone who grew up a Stars fan and grew up in Dallas and grew up going to games all the time, having to suffer through 7 years of the word mark football, whatever Cowboys jersey you want to call it, having the new rebrand where the black and gold boredom made way for this beautiful, beautiful shade of green that is its own in the NHL, which is something that the Stars were really looking for in a rebrand. I think it works really well off the white. I mean, I think the color is just phenomenal. It looked great in the Winter Classic too, using the same color for a retro look. I know a lot of people make comments regarding, oh, it's just a Blackhawks jersey with green. But I mean, you can't say that the Blackhawks own like having a white hem with black striping in it. And I think that's where the comparisons come from. Sure, they have the same arms, but also that's like one of the most, prototypical hockey striping patterns. I think it's really cool that their shoulder yokes are of a different shape. They're a little bit more octagonal than most typical shoulder yokes out there. So I think that's something that, is kind of gimmicky and not really important, but I think is really good. So much of it, like I could keep going, but I'm not going to. But definitely phenomenal jersey, and that doesn't even begin to discuss the font, which is, I truly think, the best font in the NHL.
You need the napkin to clean yourself up there, Justin?
Oh, I love this jersey, man. I could talk for days.
Let's get Steve's thoughts.
I'm gonna have to agree. It was a toss-up for me between the like Justin said, the early thousands with the star pattern jersey that was originally an alternate that they moved to full time, which was from my favorite all-star jerseys of all time. But I really do think that their new rebrand has done them nothing but huge positives for this, because with this rebrand, it just feels like a much brighter green, much more vibrant, not something that you're commonly seeing in the NHL. Also with that yoke looks great there, and then it's just a traditional design, and I think they have so much room to grow off of this base, and they've just taken their time to curtail to get people to used to seeing that when they see this is the Dallas Stars now. And I feel like this really helped them grow out of that, well, we moved from Minnesota thing.
Okay, Bpoe, do something.
Well, I think the 2020 Winter Classic is a very close runner-up because that jersey is beautiful in its own right, despite the couple issues it might have. But yeah, my lukewarm take is 100% that their current uniforms are the best. That shade of green is gorgeous. And just adding that black into the already green and white color scheme just adds that nice bit of contrast and balance to, just balance everything out. The logo is great. It's much better than their older one. I think that old Star uniform and that logo is heavily overrated, even though I still think it's good. I think it's overrated, and the current logo is very, very good. Even the beveling works well, which could maybe be seen as like a trendy move rather than, a longevity type of thing, but I think it works really well, and it's not even close to dated yet. And the shiny silver, I do own the Reebok Edge version of the green one, and that shiny silver just looks excellent in person, 100%. So, I mean, I'll talk about a couple changes I'd make in the ideal section, but for now, what they're wearing now is the best, and I'd take the green version over the white, but they're both still really nice uniforms.
We've got some extremely lukewarm takes today, as I think we're going to all agree that the current set for the Dallas Stars with the Victory Green is their best set. Out of those two, I'm going to go with the Victory Green colored jersey, the home jersey. I'm a huge fan of, good color balance, and it definitely works well. Green jersey, black pants. It's just a wonderful shade of green, and it's somehow unique. Like, you see that shade of green, and you immediately know what team you're watching. Like we said, the striping feels traditional, but it doesn't feel like a cop-out or anything. It feels like it's something that could last a really long time, something that's rather timeless. And yeah, the number font is pretty good. I haven't looked at all of them. I'm not going to go ranking number fonts today. Sorry, Justin, but it's pretty dang good. Okay, let's see if we get a little more variety. I feel like we will. Well, possibly. We'll see. I'm talking about the Dallas Stars' worst uniform or our least favorite uniform, starting with Hunter.
I'm going to go with their whole set for 2008 to 2011. Those Dallas wordmark jerseys were just straight up terrible, and how dare they condemn a logo like that Stars logo that they had to the shoulder instead of putting it right on the front. They did have the white alternate, which had the Stars logo on it, which was, I guess, a good step, but again, I think what the biggest problem was is that they were condemned to that Reebok template, so they had to change something. But they didn't really do a good job changing the things that they needed to change. And I've never been a huge fan of the small numbers up on the chest, so having that on the alternate just seems out of place compared to the other jerseys as well.
All right, Justin?
Yeah, I think there's really two choices here, and I think it's Mooterus, or I think it's, what Hunter just mentioned. I think the interesting thing is, what Hunter just said about, having the Stars jersey and it being a step forward is actually incorrect, because that Star jersey came first. And then, so what the Stars did is that white Dallas jersey that became their away started as an alternate in 2008. So they even leaned into the, wordmark football-esque jersey even more, rather than away. And then the Stars jersey even got swallowed up. So, I mean, I think that white jersey looks nicer than the black jersey because it has, the green in it, which I think is also a really weird thing about the Stars in this era, is that the black jersey had no green on it outside of the Star logo on the shoulders. And then the white jersey had no black in it. I think there might have been on the outlining of stuff, but in terms of, eyeballing the jersey, it appears they operated with two completely different color schemes. Though I think the white one is more successful, I think it's worse because they already proved that it was a bad look. I mean, they had this black wordmark jersey, and as far as I remember, pretty much everyone hated it. And then they were like, oh, what if we made, another one of those? That could be fun. So then obviously they did that, and then Jaromir Jagr had to have his Dallas Stars career immortalized in this jersey, which is really disappointing. And, to see Jagr jerseys and having a Jagr Stars jersey would be something, attractive to me as a Pens fan first, but also a Stars fan. But, not if it has to be this nasty arena football long sleeve jersey.
What a shame. What a shame. Steve?
So you already know what I'm going with, and I actually have a theory behind how they got to these football-style jerseys. So I'm convinced that when they were going to talk to Reebok flat out told them, no, we're not going to do the star pattern jersey for you on our thing. You have to pick between this template. And I'm pretty sure that they pissed off the wrong person and that person said, well, if you're not giving us what we want, give us the shittiest jerseys you could find. And they said, I know, we'll just throw Dallas across the front because I don't even want to bother with you guys. So I'm pretty sure that someone in Dallas hated Reebok so much for not doing what they wanted that they said, I'm not spending a darn dime on picking a design. And that's how we came up with these. These are quintessentially the most lazy, underthought uniforms that I've ever seen a professional team wear. I don't understand from a standpoint of a team who won a Stanley Cup in an area where I should not be possible to be made. No offense there, Justin.
No, I mean,
But
hey, we had an outdoor game. That's all that matters.
they had the fan base to keep that surviving. And the thing that pisses me off most about this is that they were good in these jerseys.
Yep.
Like, they were reaching the Western Conference Finals with these. And that is something that annoys me, is that they had such a talented team, and that team had to wear these. It's a disgrace to them. And I know I sound passionate, but this was like a dark time in the NHL history when it came to designs, because a lot of these teams seems like they were just backed into a corner and told, listen, this is what you're stuck with. Make the most of it. And it wasn't very good. So my theory is that someone really ticked off either the owner or someone along the lines in the Dallas Stars, and they said, if we're not going to get what we want, we're not making a jersey that anyone is going to like.
So basically what we're saying here is we thought the Florida Panthers were basically, kind of an afterthought. But now we're considering the Dallas Stars to be just some personal vendetta, and that's how they ended up with what they had.
Man, Reebok hated like everybody in the NHL, I guess.
Checks out. I mean, look at the jersey that came out of it. I'm on board.
That 7-8 season, just jersey-wise, is, oh, man. If you really look back at that, it's really not. It's
it
probably
might be the
one of
worst
the
in
worst
NHL history.
It's one of them, if not the worst.
Be a good podcast.
What year?
Actually. Best and worst jersey year in the league.
Oh, boy.
Oh, worst jersey
I feel like
year
we get a
hands
lot of
down had to have been 2008. Worst jersey year hands down was 2008. Because you know what? I guarantee this is what happened, is that Reebok got that contract. They were all excited, and then the panic sunk in that they said, crap, now we have to come up with something. And they wanted to do it so dang cheap that we ended up with these monstrosities because it was cheap to produce, they could produce it in bulk, and they said, it's a mix and match system. I mean, don't get me started on those gosh darn Oilers jerseys. And folks, I'm sorry, I'm containing my ability to want to cause profanities because I don't want to use a goal horn on here. So, but if I could have the words that I wanted to say without us getting in trouble, there would be some very choice words to Reebok and whoever helped come up with this system in such a lazy effort, compared to we're 12 years later, and Adidas has a template system, but their template system is so much superior to what that is. Now, granted, I'm not someone who's worked on jerseys, so I don't know what technologies were and weren't around during that time frame. But I can't imagine that Reebok was in a situation to where they could have said, could we have spent some money on some technology to make some better looking jerseys? Possibly, but we already got the contract, so screw it.
Well, considering that there were at least 2 teams that I'd say improved their uniforms going into Reebok Edge, I'd say that they had enough technology to at least make something good.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the next year, like if you look at, and this is going off topic here on a tangent with everyone, but if you go to like the 08-09 season, like if you look at the alternates introduced, there's a decent number of those alternates that either have become the primary home or at least like established themselves for like a half decade of time. And so like even like a year later, they already produced, jerseys that have been well respected, and some that have even been directly transferred over into the Reebok system when you look at the alternates or the Adidas system, I should say, when you look at the alternates for Philadelphia and the Islanders and you look at Buffalo, like all of those still exist. In addition to, the Oilers, who came out with their throwback alternate that, a lot of people still think should be their current home as well.
And I mean,
Same
like
with the
Carolinas,
Islanders.
did it not last as an alternate the entire Reebok Edge era?
Yeah,
that Carolina one.
And LA's is now their home still.
Yeah.
So like they could have done better, and they did, and props to them for like coming out with those alternates the next year. Even though it wasn't every team, like most teams ended up with an alternate the next year, and most of them were at least an improvement over their first Reebok look.
I feel like though this like Nike learned from this when they took over for MLB though this year.
Yeah.
Because instead of them trying to rush out a product like Reebok did, they just said, "Well, we're just going to buy Majestic and put our branding on those jerseys, and we're going to develop our own jerseys in the next year or two." And I feel like this is a learning point for other leagues of like what not to do, because if you look, and I mean, of course, I don't think the MLS is listening to anybody at any point here, but if you look, like, yeah, a lot of the alternates they got right, because I feel like they saw the blowback and they took a step back and they decided, okay, let's take a look and see what we can do about actually producing what the people want, because I don't think anybody wanted these designs at the time, to be honest with you. Like, does anybody else agree with me?
I mean, I don't think I was a fan of a lot of the Reebok jerseys when they first came out. But I mean, you know, it seems like teams had a template that they had to follow, and they kind of had to just do what they could.
Yeah.
Dark
So the Dallas
times.
Kind of makes
All
me
right,
glad I
Chris?
was young enough to not entirely realize what was going on at the time.
Right. Well, I just remember being excited that there were so many new jerseys I could look at, and I didn't even stop to think if there were actually like jerseys I wanted to look at.
I honestly
I
didn't
was
even know
like
that this
a
happened
freshman
until
in
years
high.
later.
Yeah.
I think I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, and I just remember when the Penguin jerseys came out and everybody saw them, it was kind of like, that's it?
Imagine being in
So,
Dallas when it happened.
Ugh.
oh, it would have been in Dallas. I would have thought that was a joke.
I did. I went. They did this whole big because we were season ticket holders. As I keep plugging, I don't mean to keep flexing, but but like there was like this whole big event where they had the two TV announcers, Daryl Ray and Ralph Strandis, who are like were one of the best duos I think for the longest time. They came and did this whole big like light show and like talking about him, hyping him up, and then the players walked out and literally like the event ended and everyone like thought it was like a meme. Like when they came out, everyone thought this was like the teaser, and they were like, haha, here's the jerseys, and so that everyone could like have a little disappointment, and they'd be like, just kidding, those were the first ones we came up with, here's the actual jerseys. Like legitimately people thought that's what it was, and then they were like, okay, the event's over, go home, and we were like, oh my.
That's incredible.
Dark days, man, dark days.
Indeed. Yeah, getting now and then. But yeah, getting back to their uniform history. I mean, yes, my pick for my least favorite, their worst, is definitely going to be that that first Reebok Edge set. Just the whole Reebok Edge thing. The white jersey with the stars on it, definitely a little better. But the black jersey, absolutely terrible. Awful. I mean, looking at their uniform history, the set they carried over from Minnesota their first year, even that's not great, but it's definitely better than anything the Reebok Edge system came up with. So yeah, we kind of all agree and get depressed by that choice.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
You guys
Okay,
completely skipped over me, but I don't really have anything to add. All I'm going to say is my runner-up is 100% their inaugural set, and the worst is that 2011 to 13 one specifically, because there's no logo on it. That's all I got to say. I'll just throw my opinion out there so that way people know my opinion, but I have nothing to add.
We did not skip over you. You threw a little bit of your opinion into everybody else's to the point where it formed one full opinion. So
it's a hive mind.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's how it goes over here. Your lukewarm take doesn't get actual airtime.
Right, I'll just cut that all out.
Yeah, it's fine. We're gonna move on to something a little more positive. Everybody giving their ideal uniform for the team. We'll see what changes people want to make to the current set, since we all love that, or if they want to do something completely different. Hunter?
I honestly wouldn't change a thing about their current set. Yeah, overall, like I think it does a good job. I don't think there's much that I would change about it.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, so it's darn close to ideal. One thing I wish they did, and my one frustration with their rebrand, is the Roundel logo. I don't think there's anything incredibly exciting about it. I think it's functional. Something the Stars did throughout their history in Dallas, up until those jerseys that we have already mentioned and will no longer mention, hopefully, was they had, this Texas State logo, state outline logo, with a star kind of over the Dallas area. And that was something that had been, literally since their inaugural jerseys, when they came over from Minnesota. So that's something, and they do have a Texas logo, and it looks really good. They wear it on the pants, and it's got, half green, half black. It's got the star on the D star on there. So seeing that on the shoulders is something that I would really, really love. Since they adopted this look, I was hoping to see a black alternate with that logo. Now that they have the Winter Classic logo and the Winter Classic jersey, frankly, like, I go back and forth on whether I even want a black alternate now, or I just want to plug that bad boy in there. Maybe clean up the equipment a little bit, as was talked about on our Winter Classic podcast. But I think putting that Texas logo on the shoulders and adopting the Winter Classic, whether it's as is completely or with a couple subtle changes, I think that's pretty much takes you to the promised land in Dallas.
All right, Steve.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia.
No.
No. I'm going to start off by saying their current set is near perfect, just like Justin said. I think a minor tweaks can help it. I am curious, though, to see what the star pattern jersey would look like on the Adidas, but with the current logo and colors. That would be interesting for me to see, or to see that put some way as like an alternate, not as a full time, but as an alternate. But I do think that their current set is the ideal set right now.
And Bpoe, ideal Dallas Stars look.
I feel like they could maybe try to find a striping pattern that's a little bit more unique to them, because there still are the Chicago Blackhawks comparisons, which I don't see it entirely, but I see where it's coming from. But what that is, I don't really know exactly without doing a lot of experimentation. So just for the sake of simplicity, we'll just say take their current ones and clean it up a little bit. I feel like the numbers could probably use an outline. I don't think they're bad right now, but I think that an outline would help. I agree with Justin 100%. Take that Texas patch and stick it on the shoulders instead of the roundel. There's really not too much else to do to this thing. Maybe clean up the collars a little bit. Other than that, yeah, they've nailed it, really.
All right, yeah, I'm going to say, of course, we agree. The current set they have is great. I do agree with Bpoe that I think something could be done to the collar, like the center of the collar in front of it. Like, it's always bugged me on the away jersey how they'll have a green shoulder yoke, a green centered collar, and then the white collar, and it feels like there's this weird like polo shirt vibe going on with that when I see it on TV or whatever. But otherwise, it wouldn't change anything about the current set. I do completely agree with Steve. I mean, somewhat with Justin as well, that I would love to see an alternate jersey, perhaps a black alternate, using that star striping from the early mid 2000s. Like, I think that's a really bold, unique jersey that it's definitely a lot better than any of the mid 90s alternates, and it lasted a while. And so I see no reason not to bring that back for an alternate jersey and to, try out the current color scheme on it, because we know how much people love that green. So having, some black, some white, and the victory green on there on that template, I think that could look really good. But, very, very few changes I would make to what they currently have. I think they did a great job with it.
I forgot to mention, too, I tried out a few years ago. I experimented with using the beveling pattern that they have on their logo and taking that onto the numbers, at least the back numbers. And honestly, whenever I tried it, I thought it looked pretty sharp. And I feel like that's definitely something they could pull off. On the away jersey, I suppose they'd have to, use either a slightly darker or a slightly lighter shade of green. But I don't think that would be a problem if it's only on the numbers, kind of like how Carolina has their darker red that's only in the striping. Only for that sublimated pattern. I don't think that would be a problem adding one extra shade of green for just that purpose. I think it's something worth experimenting with, at the very least.
All right, Dallas, you heard us. Experiment a little, but don't change too much. Okay, I think that will just about do it for our NHL team rundowns today. We went through the Anaheim Ducks, Florida Panthers, and Dallas Stars. Next up on our list would be 3 other teams from the early 90s, which would be the Ottawa Senators. Those will be fun to talk about. The Tampa Bay Lightning, also fun. And the San Jose Sharks. I think those will be a good set to discuss whenever we get to them. For sure.
So we're going to be talking about Canada's punching bag of a hockey team. A team that was originally told by the... you heard me, Hunter.
Excuse me. First of
You
all,
heard me.
they may be bad, but they aren't a punching bag. The Leafs are universally hated in Canada outside of Toronto. Thank you.
Oh boy. Oh, we're gonna have this.
The reason why Ottawa exists is because that both Montreal and Toronto wanted to be the capital. So they placed it in between them to make them happy, like a parent who was trying to find a happy medium for his 2 fighting children.
That just means we're more mature than Montreal and Toronto. That's okay. We're the parents in the situation.
Okay. Yeah.
You're the surprised third child that ended up solving all the disagreements between the first 2 children.
Yeah. You guys don't want to decide yourselves? We'll do it for you, kind of thing.
But if you guys know, San Jose actually, they were told they weren't going to be allowed to use teal originally when they first established that they wanted to use teal.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah, the NHL was against it. They didn't want them to use teal, and they said, let us use teal. So they did, and they had some of the highest sale numbers when they first unveiled their brand, simply because of the teal color.
Yeah, and just to clarify with Ottawa, we will be talking about the team that was introduced in 92 and exists until now, and we will not be recognizing the team that started in 1970 and 1917 and died in the mid-30s.
The whole time anyway.
Two separate things.
But that was
we will not be combining.
But that was the good Ottawa team. They're the ones that won cups.
That's the team that matters.
Yeah.
Sorry, kid. Your dad died, and you're not very good. So
wow.
I don't think that's how you relay that kind of news, Chris.
I got a whole fan base to tell now.
Your striped father is dead, and you suck.
But you can borrow his stripes sometimes.
Just occasionally, not like you can't remember.
Not all the time.
Weird.
No, you get a simpler version of the stripes, and don't do what Montreal did for that one game.
Also, you can only tell people half of your name.
And nobody's gonna like it, so then you're gonna never do it again. It's funny because the Sens actually never even tried to do a jersey with like the barber pole on it, but they'd let Binghamton try it one time, and everybody's like, "These are disgusting," and then they never did it again.
Give it to the grandkids. See if they like it. Okay, they don't. All right, perfect.
Wait. Doesn't the AHL team have the barber pole as their like?
Well, they have
they have the modern version of it.
Okay, so they have the modern version.
They basically their home and away template is basically that alternate that they had in 2011, but with white instead of cream. And
didn't they wear the white one against Vancouver when they were the Millionaires in the Heritage Classic?
Yes, they made a white version for the Heritage Classic.
Or like the cream off-white version,
Yeah.
Yep.
Gorgeous game.
We're going to talk about it next episode. It's fine. We'll stop.
Double episode.
Yeah, guys, come on. We're already an hour 40 minutes. I don't think we need to extend this episode any longer.
You guys are going to make me cry. Like, I need to save all my tears for next episode whenever we switch on my team.
Next episode, we're gonna get a Hunter rant like we did with Chris last week about the LA Rams.
Oh, I'm gonna get passionate.
I'm down. Let's make some people cry.
Let's make some other people cry.
Indeed, yeah.
It's the Nerds Podcast, making people cry since 2020.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're just trying to hurt one co-host at a time, one contributor at a time. We hurt Justin today.
Yeah.
We'll hurt Hunter next time.
Until we hit the Penguins, then we get a 2-for-1 with Bpoe and Steve.
Well, Justin's on. We also get a 3-for-1.
To go through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, can't wait to to beat up some Pens fans. That's the goal of all this, really.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on the Penguins' jersey history, honestly. They've got quite a catalog.
Especially since me, Bpoe, and Steve are all Pens fans.
Yeah, as we get to the teams that have longer histories, we might have to cut down the number of teams we cover in each one. But this is definitely fun. This is definitely working, and I'm enjoying it. I don't know about anybody else.
I'm loving it.
We're not sponsored. You can't say that. No, we're not. You can't.
That's our demonetization.
We're gonna get an email.
That's copyrighted.
We're getting an email from McDonald's in a week.
You can't take a name like it from Nick Burger Place.
Damn it!
Clown Burger is gonna come after him.
There's probably an actual place called Clown Burger.
It's like one of those. It's just a crappy off-brand of McDonald's.
Oh gosh. Now I'm curious. Like, is there a Clown Burger? Is it a
Jersey Nerds
chain?
podcast.
It's like, what was that knockoff one from Coming to America in Queens?
Knock off McDonald's.
You guys ever see Coming to America?
I have. It's been a while.
I have not. I know what it is. There is a Clown Burger though. It's in Haltom City, Texas.
Fat Sal's. Oh no, McDowell's. McDowell's was what it was from Coming to America.
So anyway, if you're in Haltom City or North Fort Worth, Texas, go to Clown Burger and
tell them Jersey
tell them the Jersey Nerds sent you, and they'll have no idea what you're talking about. So we set out to talk about some hockey teams, and we ended up promoting an old school burger joint in Texas. So
there you go.
Funnily enough, that's only 20 minutes from where I live.
Oh wow!
You gotta tell us how it is.
That means you gotta go now.
Yeah, go and try and set up a sponsorship with them before we release.
Guys on Clown Burger.
Welcome to Clown Burger, home of the Clown Burger. Okay, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about burgers more at some point.
Clown Burger, the pictures are terrifying.
5 nights at Clown Burger.
When you can get a burger and shanked in the same night.
Yeah, honestly, some of those Senators jerseys we might call Clown Burgers because they're pretty layered and If the Hamburglar Andrew Hammond wore one of them, we can easily
save the insults for next week. My goodness, I said
we're practicing. That's fair. All right. Anyway, this has been a fun one. Been a good one. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll hopefully things go insane next time. Thanks to everybody for joining us, Steve, Justin, Hunter, Bpoe. And we'll see y'all next time. Thank you for listening to the Jersey Nerds podcast. Check out our website at jerseynerds.wordpress.com to find the latest news, concepts, podcasts, and more. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at _Jersey Nerds. You can find Chris on Twitter at C Ramirez, CALIF, and on Instagram at Chris Ramirez Creative. You can find Hunter on Twitter at OpenSZN39 and on Instagram at HJ.Design661. You can find Bpoe on Twitter and Instagram at BPCDesign. You can find Justin on Twitter at JBROLLEY_design and on Instagram at jbrawley.designs. Or just find all the links down in the description of the episode.